Picture this. You've got someone in your life who's been your rock. They've listened to your 3 a.m. rants, forgiven your worst mistakes, and stuck by you when everyone else walked away. They're patient, they're understanding, they're basically a human safety net. And then one morning you wake up and realize they're gone. Not physically gone, just emotionally unavailable. Completely unreachable. Like they've erected an invisible fortress around themselves, and you're permanently locked outside. What's even more terrifying? You didn't see it coming. There was no explosion, no screaming match, no dramatic breakup scene. Just silence. Cold, final, unbreakable silence. If this has happened to you and that person was an INFJ, congratulations. You've just been door slammed. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. You're never getting back in. Now, before you click away thinking this is just another personality type video, hang on. Because what we're about to unpack isn't just about INFJs. It's about the precise psychological moment when someone who loves deeply decides to stop loving you altogether. It's about invisible boundaries you didn't know you were crossing. And it's about why some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt, not because of anger, but because of something far more permanent: indifference. So buckle up. Whether you're an INFJ yourself, you've been cut off by one, or you're desperately trying to avoid becoming another casualty of the infamous door slam, this video is about to change how you see relationships forever. Let's dive in. 1. The INFJ's incredible patience and why it's deceiving. Here's where things get interesting. INFJs are known for being some of the most patient people you'll ever meet. They'll listen to your problems for hours. They'll forgive you when you mess up. They'll give you second chances, third chances, and sometimes even more chances than you probably deserve. Why? Because they understand that people are complicated. They get that everyone's fighting their own battles and dealing with their own stuff. INFJs have this deep intuitive understanding of human nature, and they can often see the reasons behind someone's bad behavior even when others can't. But here's the catch, and this is super important. Their patience isn't unlimited. It's more like a reservoir that slowly drains with each violation of trust, each disrespect of boundaries, each time you take advantage of their kindness. And the really tricky part? They're not going to tell you how much is left in that reservoir. They're not keeping score out loud. They're just quietly observing, feeling, and processing everything. Most people think that because an INFJ hasn't said anything, everything's fine. Wrong. Dead wrong. By the time they realize the INFJ is upset, it's usually way too late. The decision's already been made. 2. What actually triggers the point of no return? So what exactly pushes an INFJ over the edge? What makes them go from patient and understanding to completely done with you? It's not usually one big dramatic event, although that can happen. More often, it's a pattern of behavior that violates their core values. Let's break down the main triggers. First up, repeated betrayal of trust. INFJs value authenticity and honesty more than almost anything else. If you lie to them, manipulate them, or go behind their back, you're chipping away at the foundation of the relationship. Do it enough times and that foundation crumbles completely. Second, disrespecting their boundaries. INFJs are generally pretty flexible and accommodating, but they do have boundaries. When they set a boundary, even if they do it quietly and politely, they mean it. If you keep trampling over those boundaries like they don't matter, you're basically telling the INFJ that you don't respect them. And that's a one-way ticket to getting cut off. Third, using their empathy against them. This one's especially painful for INFJs. They're naturally empathetic and caring, and some people see that as a weakness to exploit. Maybe you keep coming to them with drama but never actually change. Maybe you guilt-trip them into doing things. Maybe you take advantage of their kindness without ever giving anything back. INFJs will tolerate this for a while because they want to help, but eventually they'll see the pattern for what it is. Fourth, causing harm to people they love. INFJs are fiercely protective of the people they care about. You can mess with them directly and they might forgive you, but if you hurt someone they love, that's a different story entirely. It's one of the fastest ways to get permanently removed from their life. And finally, refusing to grow or change. INFJs believe in personal growth and development. They're willing to work through problems with you if they see genuine effort and willingness to improve. But if you keep making the same mistakes over and over, showing no interest in becoming a better person, they'll eventually realize that you're not going to change. And that's when they walk away. 3. The warning signs you probably missed. Here's the thing about INFJs. They're not going to suddenly explode and tell you off. That's not how they operate. Instead, they give subtle warning signs that most people completely miss because they're so focused on themselves. The first sign is withdrawal. The INFJ who used to text you all the time starts responding less frequently. They're not as available to hang out. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel kinda stilted and surface level. They're pulling back emotionally, creating distance between you and them. Another sign is that their warmth starts to fade. INFJs have this natural warmth and caring energy that they radiate toward people they love. But when they're pulling away, that warmth starts to disappear. They might still be polite and civil, but there's a coolness there that wasn't before. It's like talking to a friendly stranger instead of someone who really knows you. You might also notice they stop sharing personal stuff with you. INFJs are actually pretty private people in general, but with people they trust, they'll open up about their thoughts, feelings, and dreams. When they start keeping everything to themselves around you, it means they no longer see you as someone safe to be vulnerable with. They'll also stop investing energy in fixing problems in the relationship. Before, if something was wrong, they'd try to address it or work through it. But now, they just don't bother. They accept the distance. They don't push for resolution. It's like they've already accepted that the relationship is over, even if you haven't realized it yet. And here's a big one. They stop getting upset about your behavior. You'd think that would be a good thing, right? Wrong. When an INFJ stops caring enough to be hurt or disappointed by what you do, it means they've emotionally detached from you. They've accepted who you are, decided it's not compatible with their life, and they're in the process of letting go. For the internal process before the door slam. Let's talk about what's happening inside the INFJ's mind and heart during this whole process, because it's not a quick or easy decision for them. Remember, these are people who care deeply about others and who value their relationships. Cutting someone off goes against their natural instincts. First, there's a long period of trying to understand. INFJs will analyze the situation from every possible angle. They'll try to understand why you're behaving the way you are. They'll make excuses for you. They'll consider your background, your stress level, your circumstances. They're desperately trying to find a reason that makes your behavior okay or at least understandable. Then comes the internal struggle. INFJs have this war going on inside them between their empathy, which makes them want to keep giving you chances, and their intuition, which is screaming at them that this relationship isn't healthy. They'll feel guilty for even considering cutting you off. They'll wonder if they're being too harsh, too judgmental, not understanding enough. During this phase, they might actually give you explicit chances to change. They might have a serious conversation with you about what's bothering them. This is your opportunity, probably your last one, to actually listen and make real changes. But here's what usually happens. People don't take these conversations seriously enough. They might apologize in the moment, maybe even make temporary changes, but then they slip right back into the same patterns. And that's when the INFJ starts to grieve. Yeah, you read that right. Before they even cut you off, they're already grieving the relationship. They're mourning what it could have been, what they hoped it would be, and accepting that it's never going to get there. This grieving process can take weeks or even months, and it's happening completely internally while they're still interacting with you normally on the outside. Finally, there comes a moment of clarity. It's different for every INFJ in every situation, but there's always a moment where something just clicks. Maybe it's one final incident that perfectly illustrates the pattern. Maybe it's just the accumulation of everything finally reaching a breaking point. But in that moment, the INFJ sees the situation with absolute crystal clarity. They understand that the relationship is harmful, that you're not going to change, and that they need to remove you from their life for their own well-being. And that's when the decision is made. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation and self-respect. 5. The actual door slam moment. So what does the actual moment look like when an INFJ decides you're done? Here's the surprising part. It's usually pretty quiet and undramatic. There's no big confrontation in most cases. No shouting match, no dramatic goodbye speech, no burning bridges with fireworks. Instead, you might just notice that the INFJ has become unavailable. They're always busy when you try to make plans. They take longer and longer to respond to messages until eventually they just stop responding altogether. Some INFJs will do what's called a slow fade. They gradually reduce contact until you're basically strangers who occasionally acknowledge each other's existence but have no real relationship anymore. This is especially common in situations where they can't completely cut you out, like if you work together or have mutual friends. Other INFJs will do a clean, complete cut. They'll block you on social media, delete your number, and remove you from their life entirely. This usually happens when the hurt was particularly deep or when they know that maintaining any kind of contact would be harmful to their healing process. In rare cases, an INFJ might actually tell you directly that they're done with the relationship. But even then, it's usually calm and matter of fact. They've already processed all their emotions internally. They've already made peace with the decision. By the time they're telling you, it's not up for debate or discussion. It's just information they're giving you as a courtesy. And here's what really gets people: the finality of it. There's no anger in their voice, no hatred in their eyes. Just this calm, resolved certainty that the relationship is over. It's like watching someone close a book they've finished reading. They're not angry at the book, they're just done with it and ready to move on to the next one. 6. Why the INFJ door slam is permanent. Alright, let's address the big question. Why can't you come back from this? Why is it so final? First, understand that by the time an INFJ has cut you off, they've already given you more chances than most people would have. They've already tried understanding you, forgiving you, and working with you. They've exhausted every possible option to make things work. So when they decide it's over, they're not just reacting emotionally, they're making a calculated decision based on tons of evidence and deep reflection. Second, INFJs have excellent memories, especially when it comes to emotions and patterns. They remember every time you let them down, every promise you broke, every boundary you crossed. Even if they wanted to give you another chance, their mind would constantly be bringing up all those memories, making it impossible to truly trust you again. Third, the door slam is actually a protective mechanism for the INFJ. It's how they protect their energy and their peace. INFJs are deeply affected by the people around them, and toxic relationships can literally drain them to the point of physical and mental exhaustion. Once they've recognized that someone is harmful to their well-being, they can't afford to let that person back in. It's a matter of self-preservation. Fourth, there's the fact that the decision itself was incredibly difficult for them to make. INFJs don't take cutting people off lightly. It goes against their nature. So once they've finally worked up the strength to do it, they're not going to undo all that work by giving you another chance. They know that letting you back in would just restart the whole painful cycle. And finally, INFJs value growth and change. If you haven't changed by the time they cut you off, after all the chances they gave you, they don't believe you're capable of changing, at least not in relation to them. They might hope you grow and become a better person for your own sake and for others in your life, but they don't see a future where you're different enough to have a healthy relationship with them. 7. What happens to the INFJ after the door slam? Let's flip the perspective for a minute and talk about what the INFJ goes through after cutting you off, because it's not easy for them either. Initially, there's usually relief, like a weight's been lifted off their shoulders. They can finally breathe without the constant stress of dealing with a toxic relationship. They have more energy, more peace, and more mental space for positive things and people in their life. But there's also often guilt, especially at first. INFJs have this tendency to second-guess themselves and wonder if they did the right thing. They might think about your good qualities and the good times you shared. They might feel bad about hurting you or worry that they were too harsh. However, this guilt phase doesn't last long, and it definitely doesn't lead to them reversing their decision. As time passes and they experience life without the negativity you brought, they become more and more confident that they made the right choice. They start to see even more clearly how much the relationship was holding them back or harming them. Many INFJs report feeling like they can finally be themselves again after cutting off a toxic person. It's like they've been wearing uncomfortable shoes for so long that they forgot what it feels like to walk normally, and suddenly they're free and pain-free again. They also often use the experience as a learning opportunity. INFJs are big on personal growth, so they'll reflect on what happened, what red flags they missed, and how they can set better boundaries in the future. The experience, as painful as it was, becomes part of their journey toward becoming stronger and wiser. And here's something important: they don't hate you. Even after everything, even after cutting you off completely, most INFJs don't carry hatred in their hearts. They've just accepted that you're not meant to be part of their life. They wish you well from a distance and hope you find happiness and growth, but they're not willing to sacrifice their own peace to be part of your journey anymore. 8. Common mistakes people make when they realize they've been cut off. When people finally realize they've been door slammed by an INFJ, they often make the situation worse by how they respond. Let's talk about what not to do. First mistake: love bombing. Some people think that if they just shower the INFJ with affection, apologies, and attention, they can win them back. But INFJs see right through this. They know it's a temporary tactic, not a genuine change. Plus, it often comes across as manipulative, which just confirms their decision to cut you off was right. Second mistake: trying to guilt trip them. Playing the victim, bringing up past good times, or trying to make them feel bad for cutting you off will absolutely not work. INFJs already struggled with guilt when making this decision. The fact that they went through with it anyway means they've worked through that guilt and come out the other side. Your attempts to guilt trip them will just seem manipulative and prove you still don't get it. Third mistake: using mutual friends as messengers. Don't put friends in the middle or ask them to talk to the INFJ for you. This is awkward for everyone involved and disrespectful of the INFJ's boundaries. Plus, it makes you look bad and might damage your relationships with those mutual friends too. Fourth mistake, stalking or excessive contact attempts. Constantly texting, calling, showing up places you know they'll be, or obsessively checking their social media is creepy and will potentially move the situation from relationship over to restraining order territory. Respect their space and their decision. Fifth mistake, making grand gestures. Some people think a big romantic gesture or dramatic apology will change things. But INFJs aren't impressed by performance. They care about genuine, consistent change over time. A grand gesture without real transformation behind it is just noise. And the biggest mistake of all, not taking responsibility. If you're making excuses, blaming circumstances, or trying to justify your behavior instead of genuinely acknowledging what you did wrong, you're showing the INFJ that you haven't learned anything and you haven't changed. This just validates their decision even more. 9. Is there really no hope at all? Okay, so we've established that the INFJ door slam is pretty much permanent. But is there absolutely zero hope in any situation ever? Well, let's be real here. In about 95% of cases, no, there's no hope. Once an INFJ has made this decision, it's final. They're not coming back and you need to accept that and move on with your life. However, there's that rare 5% of situations where, under very specific circumstances, an INFJ might be willing to reconsider years down the line. And I mean years, not weeks or months. We're talking a significant amount of time has passed. What would those circumstances look like? First, you'd have to have undergone genuine, dramatic, verifiable personal growth. Not just saying you've changed, but actually demonstrating through your actions and life choices that you're a fundamentally different person than you were. And this growth can't be motivated by trying to get the INFJ back. It has to be real change you made for yourself. Second, you'd need to acknowledge and take full responsibility for what you did wrong, without excuses or justifications. The INFJ would need to see that you truly understand how your actions affected them and others. Third, the reconnection would have to happen naturally and organically, not because you orchestrated it or pushed for it. Maybe you randomly run into each other years later. Maybe you end up in the same professional circle. But it can't be forced. Fourth, the INFJ would have to be in a place in their life where they have the emotional capacity and desire to potentially explore reconnecting. If they're happy and thriving without you, which they probably are, they might not see any reason to complicate their life by letting you back in. And finally, even if all these stars align, the relationship would have to be rebuilt completely from scratch with new boundaries. It wouldn't and couldn't go back to what it was before. But honestly, don't count on this. Don't spend years hoping and waiting for the INFJ to give you another chance. That's not fair to them and it's not healthy for you. The best thing you can do is accept the loss, learn from it, and become a better person for your own sake and for your future relationships. 10. What you can learn from being door slammed. If you've been on the receiving end of an INFJ door slam, it probably feels pretty awful. But there's actually valuable lessons in this experience if you're willing to look at it honestly. First, it's a wake-up call about your behavior and how you treat people. INFJs are generally very tolerant and forgiving, so if one of them decided to completely cut you off, you probably really messed up. This is an opportunity to take a hard look at your actions, your patterns, and your impact on others. Second, it teaches you about boundaries. The INFJ's willingness to completely remove you from their life shows the importance of respecting other people's boundaries and the consequences when you don't. This lesson can help you build healthier relationships in the future. Third, it highlights the value of genuine change versus empty promises. How many times did you tell the INFJ you'd change without actually following through? This experience can teach you that your actions speak louder than your words, and people are watching what you do, not just listening to what you say. Fourth, it can help you understand the importance of emotional intelligence and empathy. Maybe you took the INFJ's kindness for granted. Maybe you didn't realize how your behavior was affecting them. This experience can motivate you to become more aware of other people's feelings and needs. And finally, it can be a catalyst for real personal growth. Sometimes we need a major loss or consequence to finally motivate us to do the hard work of becoming better people. If you use this experience as motivation to genuinely change and grow, then at least something positive came out of the situation. Conclusion. So there you have it, the complete picture of what happens when an INFJ decides you're done. It's not a decision they make lightly or quickly. It comes after a long process of trying to understand, trying to make things work, and ultimately accepting that the relationship isn't healthy or sustainable. The INFJ door slam might seem harsh or cold from the outside, but it's actually an act of self-love and self-preservation. These deeply caring, empathetic people have finally chosen to put their own well-being first, and honestly, that's something to respect even if it hurts to be on the receiving end of it. If you've been door slammed, the best thing you can do is accept it, learn from it, and move forward. Don't waste your energy trying to change their mind or get them back. Use that energy instead to become a better version of yourself. Not for them, but for you and for the people who will be part of your future. And if you have an INFJ in your life who you value, treat them well. Respect their boundaries, appreciate their kindness, and never take their presence for granted. Because once that door closes, it's not opening again. Remember, every relationship teaches us something. Some teach us about love and connection, and others teach us about boundaries and self-respect. Both kinds of lessons are valuable even when they're painful. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive into the INFJ door slam. If this resonated with you, if you've experienced this from either side, or if you've got an INFJ in your life who you want to understand better, drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And hey, if you found this helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more content about personality types, relationships, and personal growth. Until next time, treat people well, respect boundaries, and remember, some doors once closed are meant to stay that way.